Hello, I'm Horceror. I want to find out what makes every single killer tick. There's one big glaring issue with that though. I play the Nemesis, essentially only the Nemesis. I physically cannot get thousands of hours of experience on every single character. So, I'm going to be interviewing people that do have those thousands of hours. One for every single killer. Welcome to Stars of the Fog. Alright, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Stars of the Fog. Today's killer is the Xenomorph, coming from the incredibly notable horror franchise Alien, after being added to Dead by Daylight in
August 2023.
After being added to Dead by Daylight in August of 2023, the Xenomorph has become a staple amongst the cast of killers. My guest here today, TheMrHeadache, is essentially the Xenomorph main, and, well, rather than even try, I'm gonna let them talk for themselves. So, who are you? What are you known for? And why the Xenomorph?
Well, I am the Mr. Headache, probably better known as Bran. I am the number 5 Xenomorph worldwide, number 1 NA, and I wrote the guide that you've probably seen featured in S.T.A.R.'s guide list. I like entertaining, but also educating the Dead by Daylight community. That's kind of like my main passion. Xenomorph specifically happened because I've always kind of had Xenomorph as my dream chapter. I've always enjoyed the Alien franchise since I was a kid because I grew up in a very rigid religious household. So horror games, horror movies, violent video games in general, not really something I was allowed or offered for a long time. But when I was 13, my dad was like, hey, I think you're old enough. You want to watch this? And it was Aliens versus Predator. And it's funny because in hindsight, the movie's not very good. It's fun, but not very good. But I was just locked in. I loved it. From that point on, I just kind of loved the Alien franchise. So it was kind of always the chapter I wanted to come to DBD. So I can't really see myself playing anybody else.
So why not Predator being your dream chapter? Why Alien specifically?
I just like it a smidge more than the other one. I think also Alien just kind of has better movies than Predator. Not by a lot, but they just typically when an Alien movie comes out compared to whatever Predator comparative movie is on the other side of the franchise, usually the Alien movie is better. Although Predator's starting to change that. Prey was really, really, really good. And I liked that a lot. Hopefully Badlands will also be amazing. But typically, the Alien franchise usually knocks it out of the park with Alien, Aliens. Alien 3 kind of stepped down a little bit and then got lost in the sauce for a little bit. But then it came back with really good movies like Alien Romulus, and obviously Alien Earth now is knocking it out of the park. So just typically the quality of Alien is better.
So your dad got you into Alien and, well, Alien versus Predator, technically. Mm-hmm. With getting into things, what got you into a different type of horror? What got you into Dead by Daylight?
It's a very funny story because my friend and I used to be in this MMO guild for Star Wars The Old Republic, and we were massively burnt out. So she decided to gift me Dead by Daylight in early 2020 and said, we should play this together since we're so sick of doing this whole MMO grind thing. And she didn't end up playing, but I logged in to DBD because it's free. It was a gift to me. And I see Michael Myers in there. And Halloween is my second favorite horror franchise. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. I get to play as Myers. So I bought the DLC. I hopped in. I started playing. And the rest is history, which is kind of funny because I was supposed to be playing it with them. And they just didn't play it.
Yeah, I guess it'd be a bit tough to play Michael Myers with your friend.
It's like they just didn't follow through with the plan. We never ended up playing together. It's funny now because in 2025, finally, that friend reached back out to me and they just now started getting into DVD.
And then you're like a veteran at this point, so...
Yep, it's really weird, but really funny.
How the turns have tabled. So, Michael Myers.
Yes.
I'm not exactly seeing the connecting threads from Michael to Xeno. So when did we, well, obviously when it came out, but when did we get to the Xenomorph? What was the path of maining killers? And did you play Survivor first? How long until you started maining killer? And how did we get to the Xenomorph from there?
So Myers, I liked a lot just for the sake of the IP. I just love the Halloween franchise a lot. Not as much as Alien, but I do like the Halloween franchise a lot. But as I continued to play Myers, which this will come as a shock to nobody, very mechanically simple killer. Not a lot of flashiness, not a lot of skill expression. And I think just after a year or two, I just got bored. There was nothing flashy, nothing crazy, nothing cool I was doing. I was just staring at people and then occasionally insta-downing them. So even if I love this franchise a lot, the character wasn't fulfilling to play. So I shifted over to Huntress for about a year or two. But I'm sure as you understand understand as somebody who plays Nemesis is sometimes survivor movement is just random, completely random. There's no way you can tell what's going on in their heads. And especially if you're a character that can't strafe their ranged projectile, that gets frustrating after a while.
Imagine.
So I went over to Billy, and that was Overheat Billy, not the good one that we have now. And I mained them all the way up until August 2023 when they announced the Dream Chapter.
And then you're like, oh, okay, well, bye, Billy. See you later.
Yeah, because old Billy was B- tier at best, and he was one of the most skill-intensive characters in the entire game. So I was happy to move on at that point.
For another B tier.
Yeah, I know my type. I'm B tier, but I'm skill-intensive, and collision makes me mad. That's my character type for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So obviously the draw of Alien was Alien, but when you first got into playing the Xenomorph, like when you first got your hands on him for the first time, what was like the initial appeal? Like what was the first like, oh shit, this is the killer for me moment? And like about how long did it take before you felt like you were able to say you mastered them?
It was all kind of a snowball from one thing to the other. First popping in, the sound design for this character is like peak, like 20 out of 10. They knocked it out of the park. It was amazing. Like everything from the way the control station sound, the beeping of the turrets, the hissing of the xenomorph, like the ambience on the tunnels, like they just nailed the sound design of the character. So I knew that they had done a good job out the gate of being faithful. And I think the first thing that really stuck out to me is like, this is a fun character to play, is when I was roaming around in the tunnels using my built-in info to root people out that are walking around above me. That truly felt like the Alien, and it felt really like cool and stalkery. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. But when I really like stuck to it and I said, okay, even if this character was like boring, I was going to play Alien anyway. But I was pleasantly surprised when like the tail attack was very, very skill intensive and also very, very flashy. Like I talked about with Myers, I was feeling very mechanically unfulfilled playing a character that just stares and occasionally insta-downs people. This is like the opposite. This is I can farm clips shooting through weird gaps, going for weird strafes. Like there's a lot of like payoff for the skill that you obtain with this character. So I knew I could continue to push it and push it and push it until I hit a limit, and my skill would be rewarded with not only results, but something that actually looks cool and that I can show to other people. As for when I finally started like feeling like I was a master of the character, it took a while. I always tell people this, but like Alien is a very moderate skill 4 killer. They're not difficult. I think they're moderately difficult, but they're not up in like the top 5 most difficult characters in the game or something like that. But they're moderate. You really have to learn how to deal with the flame turrets to keep your power. You have to learn the collision of the game, which is really wonky and weird because outside of the chainsaw killers, you're the most like collision demanding killer in the game because you have to weave your tail attack in and out of things. Some of us don't get to ignore a collision.
Imagine.
So once you climb that hill, I think when I first started feeling like, okay, I'm actually mastering this character was like 2 or 3 months, I would say, because I started writing the guide about 4 or 5 months after release.
Yeah, and self-promoting on my own channel. When I was writing my guide, you were actually the guy that I went to for like a lot of help with that. So
Yes, curious.
So with all this stuff about the Xenomorph that you like, obviously, if you had to choose one thing, what would be the thing that you like the most about playing Xenomorph?
Hitting really, really awesome tail attacks. When somebody like vaults over a window and I just barely whack them, or I thread the needle around somebody unhooking or somebody body blocking, those moments where they like the survivors are trying to outsmart me, but I'm just so good with the tail that they can't, that is so gratifying. That feels so good. Like I can't get enough of it.
Very tangibly satisfying type of attack then.
Yeah, it's funny with Xenomorph's kit because it goes both ways in that regard, is that you get immediate results for saying you're good with the tail, whereas with the flame turret side on the survivor end, you don't always see the value out of the turrets, so people get discouraged. But on my end, I definitely see like a skillful turret placement, like will buy them the chance to hit a window, hit a vault, and I'm not even mad because I'm like, well, you put it in a good spot, so yeah, good on you. So when I'm getting beat by like good turret placements, it doesn't feel bad either because they played right.
So if good turret placement doesn't feel bad, like what does? We did briefly talk about this with collision.
Yep.
And occasionally I'll come into your stream like mid you going bald, but
yep.
What do you dislike the most about the Xenomorph?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. It is the clunk of the tail collision. The tail's hitbox is 14 centimeters. It's pretty chunky. And as you guys continue to see, as the game continues to be updated, they keep adding a lot of weird collision to a lot of bases. Infamously, the Garden of Joy porch just got a giant invisible wall that you can't hit over anymore. The decimated Borgo maps, both of them, the path tiles now have a big wall around them. I'm sure you've noticed that if you're trying to hug that tile with a survivors, you can't hug the corner tightly anymore because it's just one big rectangle. So that on top of the tail itself already being clunky and not interacting well with collision, as well as just collision map design in general being terrible, that just makes the character very, very frustrating. I think, like I said, outside of the chainsaw characters, they are the most affected by game collision. So they definitely need like a collision pass or something like the chainsaw killers got to make them not feel so. I was going to try to find a better way to put it, but it really is just highway robbery. Whenever you go for a shot and it hits them dead on, but it's like, well, technically you hit the invisible wall right behind the survivor, so now you don't get the attack even though you aimed perfectly. It's frustrating.
Should just aim perfectly, or nope. I don't know what to tell you. So with Borgo and Garden of Joy maps, both of these suck collision-wise. So I assume they're not your favorite. What is your favorite map to play on as the Xenomorph? And if it's one of those two, what's your least favorite? And are these just the same as your killer's best and worst maps, or is it just like a personal preference?
They're usually, it comes down to best and worst maps are aligning with what I like. I think the best map for Xenomorph is Wrecker's Yard. Auto Haven in general has a lot of tail attack friendly tiles where you can shoot over or around, like the pickup truck or the junk tile with the oil can. There's plenty of stuff you can shoot over and around, and Wreckers is fairly small, so they're going to be running into a lot. No crazy main building that you have to deal with. It's just usually a good time whenever I play on there. The worst map, honestly, this might be a hot take, probably Disturbed Ward. I know a lot of people don't enjoy Disturbed Ward, but most people are like, well, Badam Eerie for most killers, which are not great for Xenomorph either. But Disturbed Ward is rough because the burned out, hollowed out tiles have very bad collision. You know this.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know this.
You know this because even Nemi can't deal with like the burned out tiles because the collision's so wonky on them. So
I can kind of do a horseshoe around and like maybe get a drag, but like the fact that it's a foot tall and you can't hit over it because of an invisible wall is disgusting. I'm gonna be honest.
It's very gross. So,
but a lot of the time you can just hold your whip and they don't know that you can't hit over it, so you're in their head, and then it's like, well, I couldn't have hit that anyway, so and then you hit them. Yeah, okay, go on.
Disturbed Ward also has one of the strongest main buildings in the game. It has multiple really good pallets. It's like a balanced landing heaven, and you also have the cubby holes, the little corners in the map that are complete dead ends, which means any ambient pressure you have just goes away because you two are just having a confined chase away from everyone else. So everybody gets just to do the gen super safely. So it's just a nightmare. It's also the third biggest map in the game. I believe it's 172 square tiles off the top of my head. It's only beat by Azarov's resting place in Shelter Woods, which are 176. So it's just rough all around.
So with chases that are pretty rough, I'm not super familiar with the quality of yours personally, but I would say Nemesis's add-ons are pretty rough. I have like 4 or so that I can use. What are the Xenomorph's add-ons like? Do you think that they're balanced? Do you think that they're over or under-tuned? And what are your favorite ones to run?
I think in terms of the add-ons, they're better than a lot of killers, but I would give it, if I could give it a rating out of 10, 10 being best, 1 being the worst, it'd be like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Obviously, it's not like Nemi where you're restrained to 3 or 4. Xenomorph is restrained to like 5 or 6, maybe 8 on a good day. The main ones you want to run, like the top 3 add-ons that you want to run are, this won't surprise anybody, but Lambert's Star Map. Anti-turret add-ons are not as necessary as they used to be before the March update, but they're still great. Obviously, it's the main counterplay to your character, so that reduces the turret range at which they throw flames from 10 meters down to 8. That's always a safe bet. You can throw that on any build, but not required anymore, which is very, very nice. Harpoon gun is probably, if not for like the sake of not always getting consistent value out of it, Harpoon gun's value is really, really good. Harpoon gun is whenever you exit a control station within the next 30 seconds, whenever you hit anyone, and this includes endurance hits, by the way, which is really cool. Anyone outside of 16 meters of you screams and reveals their location, and it's every hit within the 30 seconds. So once it's active, that timer, any hit you hit people creates that. So if there's like 2 survivors when you come out of the tunnel, you could get like 3 or 4 procs of this within 30 seconds. It's hilarious, and also very evil because if you're running it with Thrill of the Hunt and another totem, guess what restarts every time you scream?
Oh my god, built-in totem value.
Yep, it's very, very gross. The problem with this add-on is I rank it number 2, not 1, is because sometimes, I'm sure you realize this a lot while playing killer in general, is that the survivors are just all around you. Like you hook somebody and the other guy's like 8 meters the other direction. So it doesn't really make sense to walk away, hop into a control station, come right back out just to refresh your add-on. It's better to just go chase the guy. Outside of that, this add-on's crazy.
Yeah, it's like I have to go and stick a zombie, but they're in the other end of the map. So it's like, well, I could do that, or I could just go chase a survivor, and then I don't need that part of my power. It's fine.
The next one would be Molted Skin, which used to be one of the worst add-ons before the March update, which is pretty funny. And this one is whenever you place a flame turret as Survivor, you exhausted for 30 seconds, which synergizes really well with like Mindbreaker, Languid Touch, especially Mindbreaker since it pauses the exhaustion timer entirely. So you place a flame turret, get on a gen, which is probably what you're going to do anyway, and then your exhaustion just sits there. So even if they get off, they have to still eat the timer afterwards. It's disgusting.
Yeah, 30 seconds is a pretty long time.
And for something that's required counterplay. So it's either play without the turrets and have a bad time, or be exhausted and have a worse time in chase.
Exactly.
The one that people love a lot that is always maintains its strength is Self-Destruct Bolt. So that's the 30% extra vault speed while in crawler mode. Obviously, any sort of anti-chase add-on is really good. This one's always been lovely. Pairs really well with BAM and other vault perks. The one that people used to love a lot that I think is still barely in the top 5, but not really as viable as it used to be, is Emergency Helmet. It used to be 35% resistance to the flames, but now it's only 15. If you're running low in Lambert Star maps, or you're trying to do like complete anti-turret, like for example, I know in comp settings for Xeno, a lot of the time they don't allow purples at all. So that leaves you kind of low on options. So you could run Emergency Helmet in pairing with Lambert Star Map, but you really should just be running Lambert Star Map.
Imagine having purples that are restricted because they're good.
Yeah, they have good learning add-ons. That's another wonderful thing. Overmorph, I always called it Overmorph Egg when I was first starting to learn, but it's just Overmorph. This increases the power recovery speed of crawler mode by 25% when you're outside the tunnels. This add-on's also really good in like a competitive setting because really good teams are going to set up double turret setups, and you are going to lose your power a lot, but this will help you gain it back quicker. And it's a good learning add-on as well, because if you're getting used to dealing with the flame turrets, you're probably also going to lose your power a lot. So this gets it back quicker. So it kind of lessens that blow a bit. The next one would be Cereal Rations, which is another great learning add-on. This shows you the aura of turrets that have been placed while you are in the tunnels. It also lingers for 3 seconds after you exit a control station. So when you're learning how to deal with flame turrets, Cereal Rations kind of gives you almost like barbecue or lethal. It gives you kind of an idea of like where people like to place flame turrets. So even without necessarily seeing them, you can anticipate the counterplay already. And eventually when you take it off, you just kind of have a general idea of like, well, survivors like to place them at this point on shack or this far away from a gen, and you don't need the add-on as much anymore.
Yeah, because it's a learning add-on, of course, yeah.
And it's one of those things that, like, if you're low on add-ons, like on this character, it's still good value. It's something that through macro sense, you don't need as much later, but it's still good value.
And you actually have options to learn with. That's actually pretty nice. I kind of would like the Blight style add-on, or the Doctor style add-on, or the Twins has one, I think, that just shows you where your power is going. I think that would be a really nice thing to have for any killer, really. It's like, here's the range you can hit. There you go. There's the visual.
I think Xenos would be really weird because Xeno is like a repeating hitbox. So it'd be really distracting to just have bar, 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 bar. Like as you swing, it'd be so weird looking. But with Nebby, that'd be cool because it's just 4 in a row. It's like a guillotine.
The range, yes.
The last add-on that would be like, I guess we're up to 8, that I would recommend is a semiotic keyboard, which is like the Wraith add-on, where if a flame turret is placed next to a generator, you see how close it is to completing based on white aura being not very close to being done and red being about to pop. This obviously pairs really well with a lot of gen slowdown perks. Also, it's just kind of like a better version of Cereal Rations if you like that one. I think that one's a bit underrated. The problem, like with Wraith, is that a lot of gen regression perks turn the gens yellow, and obviously that just defeats the purpose.
So a little bit earlier, when we were talking about the exhaustion add-on into the exhaustion perk, we did bring up a few like Mindbreaker or Languid Touch, just no exhaustion perks for survivors because exhaustion is a very strong perk, obviously. But in general, aside from that, like what perks you run on the Xenomorph? And do you think there is like one perk that Xenomorph runs better than any other killer in the game?
That answer for that question in particular is either Languid Touch or Spies from the Shadows, because in crawler mode, Xenomorph does not disturb crows unless you step on them directly. So those crow perks go from being kind of good to amazing because you don't have to worry about disturbing crows yourself. So you're just getting double the value that everybody else does. So suddenly stuff like Spies and Languid, just the value goes through the roof.
Just birds.
The other ones that are very, very excellent are vault perks, stuff like Bamboozle, Dark Arrogance, Superior Anatomy, because obviously this pairs very, very well with Self-Destruct Bolt, which increases your vault speed by 30% in crawler mode. So tying that with any vault perk is really awesome. Kick perks are very, very good on Xenomorph, stuff like Pop Goes the Weasel, Eruption, Call of Brine, because you get so much info and speed in the tunnels. You get 18 meters a second run speed in the tunnels. You also get 60 meters of footstep reading, sound reading, and killer instinct upon exiting the tunnels. So you get to basically just run around the map and see which gens they're going towards and working on. Usually the downside to pop or eruption is that you can't really get around the map as a lot of characters to deliver these perks properly. But with Xeno, you just hop in the tunnel and go, which one are they working on? Oh, I can hear that. And then you pop out and you just deliver the pop eruption to the right one.
It's that easy.
Obviously, we talked about Hex Totem perks with Harpoon Gun. Usually Hex Totem perks before the new Harpoon Gun update in March of this year. It was okay. It was okay on Xenomorph. But with that and Thrill of the Hunt, that combo with any sort of totem, Blood Favor, Devour, Ruin, it makes it a nightmare to jump out of a tunnel, make everybody scream, reset the progress, hit somebody else, reset the progress. You are one of the best totem defenders in the game outside like Doctor. It's very funny.
Mole, mole.
And then lastly, like you said, exhaustion perks like Liquid Touch for the Crow thing, but also the Mindbreaker combo with Molted Skin. Pre-running is really, really, really good against Xenomorph because the flame turrets come with a motion sensor in them that tracks the Xenomorph for 41 meters outside of any undetectable, oblivious, any sort of terrorist affecting perk like Monitor and Abuse. So that kind of just like rats you out to the survivors. And if they have the turret placed anywhere even remotely near the gen, they can just pre-run you. But obviously, if you have Mindbreaker or Languid, can't do that. So it's very good on them.
So lack of stealth is something that Xenomorph has to deal with. So maybe a little bit weaker in the stealth regard, at least, because of the turrets, assuming the counterplay is being used. But when it comes to countering the Xenomorph, is there like a single perk that survivors run that is like the Xenomorph counter perk?
That's a good question. A specific perk that makes Xenomorph blow up. Basically, any of like the Sprint Burst, the Lithe, the Drama. Like I said, if you set up a flame turret, 41 meters of detection on the Xenomorph, uninterrupted by anything. It literally never turns off for any reason, unless it's blown up, obviously. It also gets deactivated for like 2.5 seconds when you come out of the tunnel, but that's very quick. The point being is that it's very easy to tell if you set up a turret when the Xenomorph is coming. So if you have something that makes that pre-run really, really good, like a Lithe, like a Sprint Burst, they're just already 5 tiles away because they heard you coming. And it's a nightmare. That's why Mindbreaker Molted is like not required, but it's one of the best things you can do on this character because you suffer a lot from pre-running because the motion sensors on the turrets are so good.
Okay.
I know, cold take. Exhaustion perks are bad for a killer, but there's a specific interaction that makes it even worse.
All right. So that's perks against the Xenomorph. But I do like doing a little section where I ask just like what you're meant to do to counter the killer, just because like a lot of the time there are misconceptions about how something works. And a lot of the time there are like grievances towards a character if they don't understand how it works or how to beat them, etc., etc. So like, is there anything people don't really understand about playing in Xenomorph? Is there anything that you wish people understood about playing in Xenomorph? And is there like a really obvious counterplay that just isn't being used?
I actually was harping on this yesterday because I made a whole like video analysis on my channel, on my YouTube channel, about how to counter the Xenomorph. It is one of my lesser viewed videos, despite of how helpful that is for as many people that say Xenomorph just has zero counterplay. I hear that so often. Xenomorph has zero counterplay. And it's because they have a level of built-in zoning, because in crawler mode, they just kind of run at you and the charge time is now 0.4. It used to be even quicker. So it's hard to react to it. It is reactable for good players, but I think like many things in DBD, if you're a low skill player, no offense to anybody, that quick of a windup is hard to react to. People react to my tail all the time. It's definitely super reactable. I'm sure it's something that you understand as an Emmy, is that a lot of people can run towards a pallet, bait left last second, run towards a window, bait right last second, and it messes you up a little bit. There's plenty of stuff you can do, and it's the same thing with Xenomorph, but there is that conception that there's nothing they can do. Just because it's hard to react to, they say it's impossible to react to, which is not true. The main thing that I think bothers a lot of people about Xenomorph is that the flame turrets do nothing. I hear that all the time. Flame turrets do nothing. There are 2 kinds of ways to use the turrets, and the assumption is that turrets are only for breaking Xenomorph out of power, and if they don't do that, the turrets are a failure, they need to be redesigned, etc. There are 2 kinds of turrets. You place single turrets as what I like to call placeable body blocks. So if there is a dead zone, let's say we're on Azeroth's resting place, you're up by the office main building, and there's a big dead zone because there's a Pride Rock and you don't have balance landing, and the jungle gym is off to your right instead of like right next to you. If you place the flame turret in the middle of that gap, that dead zone between the 2 of them, and the Xenomorph pops out of the office and comes after you, you have to make 2 choices as the Xenomorph, both of which kind of hinder you in a way. You stop, you break the turret, which loses you about 3 or 4 seconds of chase time, which is a lot in DBD, but you keep your power so you can have a better chase with the tail attack later, or you just tank the turret, lose your power, but now you're an M1 killer, which makes your chase super hard. Either of which buys you enough time to scale the distance between dead zones. You could also use this to extend already powerful loops. So Shack is a perfect example. If you put a flame turret at the corner of Shack, I have to make the same decision. Do I take the time to break this and then lose 3 or 4 seconds, which at Shack gives you the window, gives you the pallet, gives you basically any helpful part of that tile that you need. Or I just tank it, lose my power, and then, got to play Shack as an M1 killer. That doesn't end well. But people assume just because I have to stop to break it and I don't lose my power that, see, turrets suck and I didn't get anything out of that. But they don't realize that now they make the window, now they make the pallet, now they get out of the dead zone. If you want to break the Xenomorph out of the power, you have to use 2. Only 2. 3 doesn't matter. 4 doesn't matter. I see people do that a lot too. They're like, I have 3 and now you're super cooked. No, it's like, you only need 2.
At that point, it's not about losing the power. It's about sending a message.
Yeah, because the reason that double turrets are really going to consistently knock out of the power is not because they stack flame charges. It's because the consistent stream does not give Xenomorph enough time to break both before they lose their power, even with the March buff to their base kit charges. So that's why it's good. So if you really, really want to break Xenomorph out of the power, put 2 down. If you only have the availability to get 1 for one reason or another, place it in any area that like a survivor diving in and taking a hit for you would buy you enough time to clear a dead zone or make a resource, because that's what their main design is for. They're not only for knocking out of power. They're mostly to buy you time, and people don't see it that way, and it like messes them up a lot. To kind of summarize this is like Xenomorph is a trap killer, but you're the trap. Like you as the survivor have to trap them, which is weird and kind of like, to my knowledge, the only like kind of killer that works that way, where you have to trap the killer outside of specific perks like Blast Mine and stuff. Right. But it's so weird and not what survivors are used to. I feel like most survivors are like, I want to on the fly react to what you're doing and just juice you and run you for 5 gens just because on the fly I'm so good at the game. But with Xeno, you do kind of have to like pre-plan your counterplay to the killer. And I don't think people like that. And I assume it's just because they're not used to it. And Xenomorph's play rate's like a 1.5%. They're fairly low. So you don't think about it, you don't practice it, and then you run into one, you're like, oh God. But you do have to do it. But I like that. I think it's unique. I think it's cool. But it doesn't play into the strengths of what survivors already know. And I think that's a point of frustration.
And would you say that the most frustrating part about playing against the Xenomorph is that the gameplay is so different from everyone else, being the trap killer gameplay turned on its head so that survivors have to actually place the traps, and it's not reacting in the moment, it's reacting like preemptively, like you have to think like 3 steps ahead. It's more like chess than just direct moves in like, I don't know, checkers or something. Maybe Xenomorph was the chess merchant the entire time. Oh my God.
Yeah, they are just extremely different, because not only with like you are a trap survivor to trap the killer, but also that Xenomorph is the flip of so many different character designs in the game, like Myers, like Oni, that Myers and Oni build up to their big aggressive chase powers. So it feels earned and survivors get that. But Xenomorph is the opposite. They're front loaded into their crawler mode automatically. It is up to the survivors to slow them or take it away, which once again doesn't make sense. It feels opposite. It fresh, not really a whole lot of other characters do that, where it's just like they get their most powerful mode right away and then they have to like maintain it. It's usually the other way. So I think a lot of survivor brains go, well, he didn't earn that. But the counterpoint is that I have to constantly manage my power now to keep it, or constantly lose it if you're using double turret setups.
You have to maintain the power rather than like earn it and then lose it again.
Yep. And I think that it's another one of those things in DBD that we've seen time and time again, that if like you don't see the value, it doesn't exist. Not true, of course, but if people don't directly see the value out of what they're doing very like in their face, they assume that nothing happened. Like with, oh, the Xenomorph just broke the turret and they didn't lose their power, so it was bad. They don't see that I lost 3 to 4 seconds of chase time. Now they're at the window and now I have to have this longer chase as a result.
I mean, I see the value when the Xenomorph is screeching for being on fire.
Yeah, but they want to see the lost power. They want to see me stand up. They want to be like, all I did was place this turret, now you just blew up and now I win. Which is like not how that works.
All right, so you kind of taught how to play against the Xenomorph, but for you specifically, because I know you play Survivor, when you play against a Xenomorph, do you enjoy playing against them? And just like, why not? How do those games usually go for you?
I'm never happier than when I get a Xenomorph playing Survivor, because I get it. Like all the things we just talk about, I'm like, okay, if I put this turret at the edge of Grim Pantry, he has to stop and break it, and then I can make it up to the Gone window up there. Like I'm plotting the whole way. I'll set up a double turret setup. I'm like, okay, these turrets need to be here at this part so he'll lose his power, but I can't put him too close because he can break both at the same time if he strafes. Like I'm doing calculations And it's super fun. I always have a good time. The only time I don't really have a great time is when they just kind of like with many killers, like I'm sure you run to this where you face Nemi and they just never use their whip and they're just like, I'm just going to zone and then punch you. You're like, oh, come on. That's basically the only time I don't enjoy it.
You don't enjoy zoning? That's crazy. But I get it, though. I love zoning.
It's like there's so much potential there and you're not doing it.
Yeah. And when you're like playing in Xenomorph, or even in general, just playing as a Xenomorph, how often do you run into like fans of your killer or, you know, antis, you know, like Alien #1 fan, Sigourney Weaver lover 42? And how do you just in general feel the community sentiment towards the Xenomorph?
So that's kind of like, it's almost separate because the ones you run into are super devoted. I always in my head, I always compare it to like finding a 4-leaf clover. You don't see very many like Alien fans, but when you see one, they're like super devoted. They have like a whole profile, Steam profile decked out like Alien stuff, and they get super excited when they see you. The Alien fans that are in the game are super devoted and they are kicking their feet that the characters in the game. But I would say for the mass community, kind of we covered this sort of already, and most survivors think the Xenomorph is brainless, they're easy, and they're a frustrating anti-chase killer to go against, and the character doesn't really have a good reputation. There's also, and this is going to be a longer thing, but there is a weird thing that happens with Xeno that I'm, to some extent, you get. I'm in your chat. I see sometimes it happens with Nemesis, but Xenomorph seems to get it a lot, where the fact that they had to make compromises to make the character fair from their source material to 4v1 means that they like ruined the character. Like with Nemi, it's like, where's his weapons? Where's his super speed? Can we give him a tier 4 that makes him OP?
Where's the rocket launcher?
Where's the rocket launcher? And they're dead ass. They're not kidding. And people do that with Xeno too. They're like, where's the face huggers? Where's the base kit acidic blood? Where's the leaping? Where's the wall crawling? Where like it's
the face hugger is on the Strobo. It's an Easter egg.
But they want the character to be just as overpowered as they are in their source material. And I don't think they understand that means that every single game against them would be abysmally miserable for the other side.
The whole point of the entity is that it buffs or nerfs people based on like the Legion is not going to win a fight against Leon Kennedy, Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, and Ashley Williams. Like Vecna would literally just snap his fingers and turn you inside out. Like you have to scale them up or down depending on what they need for a trial in the game. It's just how it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you can't just this is my canon character. Also, the Nemesis is not the size of the trial because it's mutated 3 times. Like what? No, what? That's a different game. If you want that, go play Resident Evil 3.
It's like people, speaking of that, people bring up like in Alien Isolation, guns don't even affect the Xenomorph. Why is he getting stunned? It's like the people will go to, like, again, it comes from a place of love of the franchise, because I get that. I love the franchise. Like, though, another one I hear a lot, gosh, I'm going to pop off. People say the tail attack does not fit Xenomorph, and literally out the gate, episode 1 of Alien Earth, it tail attacks someone. Episode 3, Alien Earth, tail attacks somebody again. I'm like, it does it all the time.
Holy shit, DVD reference.
It does it all the time. Almost every movie, every show, every game it's in, it tail attacks. It's something it does.
Isn't that the main way it attacks people? Like the mini mouth is like, that's an execution. That's not a attack. That's like when you have them ready to be killed, and it's like, okay, this is my coup de grace, and then they're dead. But the tail is like the main thing.
Yeah, the Mori for Xenomorph is actually like super accurate, which is another thing. People trash the Mori. They're like, that's a dumb one. They should have a facehugger. But like, if you watch the movies and the shows and the games, a lot of the thing the Xenomorph does is it stabs with the tail, brings them up, and then does the second mouth head bust thing. Like, that's what it does a lot of the time. But once again, I think that comes from a place of like disdain and hate that they wanted more in the kit. So they're like, well, that doesn't fit. And it's kind of like a bad faith argument. It absolutely fits. It happens all the time.
Absolutely. Well, believe me, I get that a lot. It's like I'm like on the edge of banning rocket launcher in my chat because like it is never something that's like it's not going to be implemented. Like maybe they put it in 2v8, but they're never going to do it because that's way too much dev effort. But as far as like playstyle stuff differing from the lore of a character and just, you know, translating it into a video game as opposed to whatever its source material is like, we talked about this a little bit earlier. How do you feel about the Xenomorph's source material, the Xenomorph's lore, and are you a playstyle purist, a extended universe enjoyer, or is it just everything about the character that makes you like them?
It literally is everything. Like you said, we did talk about this earlier. Like the first thing that even locked me to the character was like the sound design. I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like I'm playing the Xenomorph. And I have been less into it. I think I'm getting more into it, obviously, since they came to the game. But I had taken a break up until it was announced that Xenomorph was coming to the game. I used to be like into the comics. I was playing every single game. I could ramble things off of like the wiki that only exists in extended universe content. I've been, like I said, I'd like kind of like fallen out of it for a little bit. So I can't be like, well, here's the red versus black Xenomorph war that happened on their planet. Like I can't do that anymore. I used to be able to, but I'm like keeping up with Alien Earth, doing reviews for Alien Earth episodes on my channel. I'm watching Alien Isolation playthroughs just for fun in my own free time. Like I am in there. I love this franchise so much. So somebody asked me during the near March nuke that almost happened, where they were going to put Xenomorph down to like C- tier.
It's already been like 6 months. Holy moly.
Yeah. Are you going to still play them if they're bad? And I said, yeah, of course. Like this is my dream chapter. Since I was 13, I enjoy this franchise so much. And it always means a lot to me. Sometimes I get more into other things. Sometimes it happens, but you always come back to it. Because it's so good, because it was so, especially since it introduced me all to the horror genre in general, which is one of my favorite genres of games, movies, etc. So I really have it to thank for not only my interest in things I enjoy, but also for the ability to make content and have the privilege to have such a wonderful community that I can interact with every day.
Thank you, the alien.
Thank you, Alien.
And with extended stuff, I know that there's a lot of different varieties of the Xenomorph. Obviously, that's how it works.
Yep.
You can get a dogomorph, you can get a personomorph, you can get a Halo elitomorph. But with the cosmetic options that Xenomorph has right now, I specifically, the only one that I knew about was Grid from Alien vs. Predator, which was a whole thing that people were like, oh, well, obviously they're going to get Predator because Grid, the Xenomorph skin, is from Alien vs. Predator, and that's the one they got the rights to or whatever. And it's like, I guess. But how do you feel about the killer's cosmetic options and their quantity? And if you could choose just one thing, a full executive control on what you would have made for the Xenomorph as a skin, what would it be?
So for the skins are amazing and great. They clearly have a great relationship with the rights holder because we're getting skins fairly frequently, more than a lot of killers do. And all of them are like top notch, awesome. The Xenomorph skins are funny in the same way that like Deathslinger skins are funny, that like they actually have some sort of like effect on the gameplay, because you could use the tail tip to aim your tail attack, and you definitely should. It's usually off by like a few millimeters vertically for most skins, but realistically you can just use it to aim, and each skin is like either closer or farther from where the hitbox generates, and there's a lot of like tacticalness to picking your skin, which I think is cool. It's like less like Deathslinger where it's like, well, only pick the default ones because everything else is terribly off. And like most of them are fairly all right except for like one, which is the clone skin, which is pretty So you can kind of run whatever. And I think the good thing, speaking of that, is that most of the quote unquote like efficient skins are like default's B tier, default prestige, pretty close to the center of the screen where the hitbox would generate right below the center. So you don't even have to like buy skins to like have a good time on Xeno realistically. In terms of like the skin quality themselves, I like that Behavior is doing a lot of creative things with them. Like the Blighted Xenomorph looks awesome. I like that you can see the eyes glowing through the dome. Juggernaut is also a Behavior creation, and it's like it fused off of a Juggernaut ship, which is very, very cool. You got the little electrical sparks on it too, which for a skin that they don't charge a lot for, having the little electric sparks, that's an extra flair that usually they make you pay more for. But Juggernaut just has that, just cause, which is very awesome. The Chrysalis skin that they put out, not the most latest, but like the one before it, the little moths that fly around are there, but don't sell you out over loops. They don't actually go up above the loops very much, so you don't have to worry about that. The Deep Sea skin is like, people were telling me that the concept art was so good for this and they've ruined the skin, which I just can't agree with, because I think they did an excellent job. This looks like a deep sea anglerfish and a Xenomorph fused. It's such a cool and awesome skin, especially like the web fingers and toes and stuff. They really go ham on the creativity for Xeno skins, and I really appreciate it. In terms of the skins, if I had full creative control, I would do one of two things. My selfish decision would be the King Xenomorph from the big statue that they made recently, because that thing looks amazing. amazing. But if I was making it like an executive decision for everybody, non-selfish decision, my dream for Xenomorph skins, since they're willing to be creative with their skin choices, is if we got original killer versions of the Xenomorph. Like if we got a chest burster from Billy, a chest burster from Wraith, stuff like that would be amazing. That would print money. I would buy those instantly. That would be so sick to have like a Billy morph. Oh, I would love that.
When I hear Billy morph, I'm thinking of like either A, a Billy goat, B, Hillbilly, or C, the puppet from Saw. All of which are a very good mental image.
But that's like a gold mine, because you could go through, theoretically, over time, all of your original characters and make Xenomorph versions of them, and there's no problem. Like, you have the rights to those characters, you have good relationship with the rights holder, and you get to kind of like pseudo play another character you like wearing the Xenomorph skin. It's like so cool. It's such a good idea, and I feel like it's an untapped gold mine.
And speaking of untapped gold mines, would you say that the Xenomorph is in fact an untapped gold mine? Would you say that their strength is a little bit higher than what other people might think? People don't understand what they're seeing about it yet. How strong do you think the Xenomorph is, and why?
I usually see the Xenomorph placed fairly low on people's like custom tier lists. I think people vastly overstate the presence of double turrets in games and the effectiveness of them. A lot of people say that double turrets have zero counterplay, which when they're placed right, yes. But when double turrets are placed like close together, you can strafe just like you can with Nemesis and just break both turrets. You can hit them both at the same time. So you really have to run into a team that knows not only to place double turrets, but to place them further apart. And that does not happen a lot. And even if it does, usually placing them far apart means that you will have obstacles that you can kind of bob and weave to break them, because they have to have line of sight on you in order to start throwing flames. So I think they're far better than people give them credit for. I think for the average DBD player, they're going to feel like B- because they have a moderate skill floor. So until you get there, they're going to feel clunky and annoying, and you're going to be frustrated by the turrets. I think for the average DBD player that's willing to put up with that stuff, B tier. I think they're just like a very, very well balanced killer, very explosive anti-chase, some of the best base kit info in the game, right alongside Doctor with using their tunnels, good macro game running around with 18 meters a second in the tunnels. But I think once you like play this character a lot and you main them, and you get to know the collision, you get to get the general like method to the madness of the clunky tail itself, you know how to deal with flame turrets in a way that makes you keep your power like 90+% of the game, then I think at firing on cylinders, they're like a B+ tier. I don't think without a mechanic to deny the good place double turret setup that they will ever be an A tier, but I think firing on cylinders, they're definitely B+ tier.
B+ once they actually like know everything about the killer and what to do and all the weaknesses and all that. Okay.
Yep.
So obviously not going to be B+ here for people that are trying it out for the first time, but say they wanted to get into the Xenomorph playing, what is some general advice you'd give people that were learning the Xenomorph for the first time?
Oh boy, howdy, do I have a lot.
Okay, just basic stuff. I will direct them to the full guide, I promise. Like, go check this out if you want the page number, please.
313.
If you guys want the 313 page guide, it's right here. Go check that out. But we're going to talk about the basic stuff right now.
First thing, similar to Nemesis, strafe, strafe, strafe. Your attack is not just a single shot, but you can move with it and spread the hitboxes. Unlike Nemesis, you do have to weave around the collision in the game, but cover as much space as possible by strafing. If you are aiming at a survivor, aim center mass, so aim at like their butt up to their head area. Because of the wonky collision in the game, if you aim low, 9 times out of 10, you're going to phase through their legs and hit the floor. So aim from like their butt up to their head. That will help you a lot. Also keep in mind, you don't always have to tail attack. I think one of the biggest things when I do my match reads on my channel and they send me a Xenomorph one, is they just want to tail attack every single hit, which is admirable, but not really realistic. Once again, collision in the game is really wonky. So if, say on Nostromo, you're running through an area and there's just a bunch of those rocks and junk everywhere all around you, if you go for a tail attack in that area, odds are you're probably going to hit one of the obstacles in the environment. Probably just safer to take the lunge there if there's a lot of obstacles around you. I think my last thing, to keep it succinct, because I could go on about this forever, is that if you never know where somebody is, or you're not in a chase and you have a lot of downtime, just get into a tunnel. You have 16 meters of footstep rating, you have 16 meters of sound rating, you have 16 meters of killer instinct upon exiting a control station. So like I said before, you have some of the best base kit information kits in the game outside of like Doctor. So use it. If you don't know where somebody is, just pop into the tunnel. You'll find somebody eventually.
That's a lot of things that are 16 meters on this killer.
It used to be that the killer instinct was 12, but they normalized that to 16 in the March update.
And with all those things about the Xenomorph that you know about the Xenomorph, what would you change about the Xenomorph if you could? We had that patch or that PTB or that dev update, whatever it was, in March that was going to be not very good for the Xenomorph. Still crazy, it's been 6 months. What would you change about the Xenomorph if you had like the reins for a update or a patch or just changing it in general, giving him 10 skins? What would you change about Xeno?
I actually have thought about this a lot because I think the character is in a near perfect state. And if we could just give it another quality of life update, then they could just leave it forever and never have to worry about the Xenomorph again. One of these things, as we alluded to before, was nerf the motion sensors. 41 meters is crazy for a character that in its IP is super stealthy. So getting a 41 meter warning that a character is coming that's supposed to be stealthy is wild. Absolutely wild. I did this once before. I brought up the actual map of like Dead Dog Saloon and I circled a 41 meter circle and it's like the entire corner of one of the maps. It's like it covers so much distance. So I would nerf that down to either around 20 meters or below 20 meters. I don't want it to be matched with the flame turret distance. I thought about that idea. I worked that out with different people and it just kind of defeats the purpose of the flames turning on and having the motion sensor match with that, because obviously if the flames are turning on, then you know they're there. So having it a little bit longer than the base 10 meters would make sense. But it should be like you don't hear the Xenomorph coming until they're like coming at you. And that will be more lore accurate too, because if you're playing Alien Isolation, you know you have the little handheld motion sensor. Like you don't get to tell it's coming after you until it's like basically in the distance that it could reasonably drop down for the vents and come get you. So if we did that, that would be more lore accurate, allow for more stealth playstyles, allow you use stealth perks. I think that would make people happier. Obviously, big thing we've talked about multiple times, collision pass. Even if you're playing perfectly, not making very many mistakes, collision is just going to screw you over like a lot of the time on this killer. Invisible walls, phasing through the survivor and hitting the ground, phasing through the survivor, hitting the wall. It's going to happen a lot and it's really irritating. You should be rewarded for aiming well. Give it like some sort of collision pass like you gave Billy and Bubba. That way that isn't happening as often. For the survivor end, I think the hindered on turrets should be lowered. It's currently 35%, I believe, off the top of my head, which is a lot. Make it like 15-ish. That way they are more encouraged to place them further away from control stations, place them around loops and tiles. That way, even somebody who doesn't know how to kind of play the Xenomorph feels more encouraged to kind of like organically go make the right decision on a turret placement.
Giving survivors a carrot to actually try and engage with the counterplay rather than just like a chore they have to do.
What happens right now is that they pick up the turret and they're like, oh gosh, I'm moving so slow. They want to get it out of their hands as quick as possible. To the point where survivors will even like drop the turret if the Xenomorph is like approaching, when it's actually better to just place it and slow down the Xenomorph to get you a head start. Like people hate how much hindered it gives you. So if we lower that, that'll encourage more of the counterplay. Also, this is a minor one. I think that the tail attack windup should have a more exaggerated animation because you have the very loud sound cue. Right now, they made the wind up a little bit slower, but people still think that there's too much natural zoning with the character. But I think if you made the animation more exaggerated, they're like, oh, he's lifting the tail up at me, which it does do that, by the way. It's just so subtle. It's kind of hard to notice in the moment. I think that would help people with dodging it if it was like a more exaggerated animation. Those would be like the big four that I would do personally.
The big four, absolutely. And those are the updates that you would do. But obviously this was going to come up at one point or another because we've already said it twice. But the March thing that was going to be changing the Xenomorph objectively for the worse, now that we're past it and can talk about it. But how have updates to Xeno in general gone? Like changes, updates to the kit, buffs, nerfs, everything since its inception? How have they been?
I want to phrase this in a way that doesn't come off as very like harshly critical, but it's basically like they just kind of forget Xenomorph exists unless they want to nuke them into the dirt, which is the case for a lot of killers. But still sucks whenever that's the case. Basically, Xenomorph doesn't really get a lot of love or updates or changes. Every once in a while, they'll try to fix a bug, but the bug will just come right back. Like there's a current bug the Xenomorph has right now, which is really bad, where if you tail attack through a survivor while they're placing a flame turret, sometimes they're just invincible for like no reason. That's a bug that has been fixed at least once, and it just comes back every time they fix it. So that's basically the only time you really see Xenomorph in a patch of any sort, unless they, do that thing where they look at a random B or C tier killer and go, people don't like facing them. I guess you just should be in the dirt power wise. And then, we push back and then we go, no, we should not do that. And they go, we're here, we're not going to do that. And then they revert it. That's basically all the love that Xenomorph gets, unfortunately, which sucks because Xenomorph has a lot of bugs that have accumulated to a point of extreme kind of decay, not to the level of like Dracula or Plague, but they have had a distinct lack of R&R that I think they need. I do think they neglect the character a little too much.
And what are those bugs that they do have?
Okay, trying to be quick about this. A lot of them have existed since the PTB, like the invincible turret bug. Sometimes you'll hit a turret and it will not break. Sometimes you literally thwack off of it, so you like lunge and hit it and it'll bounce off like it had solid collision and then it won't break. Sometimes you swing at it and you'll slide over it, whether that be with your lunge or your tail attack. Sometimes turrets needs to be broken twice, so sometimes you'll break it and the animation will play of the turret breaking, but it'll still keep shooting flames as if the thing is still there and you have to smack it again. The 99 power bug has been there since the PTB for this character, never been fixed. Sometimes your first power up of the crawler mode just gets stuck at 99 and never completes. So I've heard different things fix this based on the patch, which also come and go. Like sometimes if you get stunned, it charges, sometimes it doesn't work, but there's no consistent fix for this based on the patch. The neck snap bug has also been there, not since PTB, but it's been there for years at this point, where sometimes you'll come out of a control station, your neck will be looking straight up and you can't fix it. The only thing that I have found that fixes it is mooring someone, which I don't know if you know this, but getting a down, much less 3 downs into a Mori while your camera's shot straight up for the rest of the game is kind of difficult.
That's even assuming you have a Mori equipped.
Yep. Phantom hits have always been an issue with the Xenomorph. It used to be only at like max range. So if like the Xenomorph's tail attack is 4.8 meters, it would usually only happen at like 4.4, 4.5 onward. Your tail will just go straight through the survivor, not hit him. Now, because of the recent year of bugs that we're having, it now can happen like point blank. It just kind of happens in general now. The recent biggest bug that's hurting them probably the most is that sometimes when you're tail attacking over objects, for some reason the game detects it as if you're hitting really low. Like your tail will be like 3 or 4 feet above an object, and you'll get the little dust cloud like at your feet as if you would like aim straight down. I don't know why that happens. I don't know if it's like a hit detection thing, kind of like a huntress or a slinger, and like I'm meant to hit that hit, but it just rejects it, kind of like it does with them. I haven't found a consistency to that, but that does happen sometimes. There's more, but mostly they're like visual. Yeah, I say that. I said like it's not as bad as Dracula, but this is a lot. That's a lot of bugs actually, and there's more that I'm omitting.
I mean, you don't have to share all of them. That's completely fine.
Yeah, but this is a self-reflection. Me going, oh, that's not as bad as some of the most bugged killers, but that's a long list.
It's still long, yeah, but... So, things that are not intended for the killer, such as bugs, sometimes can be used in the favor of said killer. These are known as secret techniques. I'm not going to say that the Xenomorph has like a hug tech or anything, but does the Xenomorph have any techs that are maybe not as known as a whole? And would you like to share any of them with the class?
Yes, and it's actually going to be pretty fun because a lot of these are shared by Nemesis, so you can, confirm these. Strafe, the one we already talked about, that's pretty simple, is that you can move with your body or your camera and push the hitboxes wherever you want to put them. Unlike Nemi, where it's like a static guillotine that goes from top to bottom, Xeno has full range of control, so wherever you strafe, it's going to follow. You cover that entire area, so you should definitely do that. The U-Tech, which I think I'm pretty sure you're the one that patented that one.
I call it the horseshoe.
The horseshoe, yeah.
I mean, because like I gotta do it, it's so simple.
Basically, if somebody tries to do like the kiss tech where they like you're turning a corner and they just like run into your face, most killers get disoriented by this, but just back up and then strafe that entire area in a U shape and you'll catch them. My favorite is take the pallet tech.
We're really scraping the bottom of the barrels to call things tech, huh?
If you're in a situation where you think somebody's going to drop a pallet on you, but you're not sure, and you're approaching the pallet, just tail attack and move forward with your body as you're tail attacking. And this puts the survivor in a lose-lose situation because either they bait the tail successfully and move out of the way, but the problem is now you're in position blocking the pallet, so they can't come back and drop in your face, so you get the M1. Or they stay and they get hit by the tail. It's a lose-lose situation for them. Another one of my favorites is the bait tech. If you're under the suspicion that somebody is like around a gen and they're just ratting and you can't seem to find them, just hop into the nearest control station and wait for those 16 meters of footstep reading or sounds to happen where they suddenly come out of hiding, and then you just pop up on them and you catch them. If you're like really like sitting there and they're like really committing to like the whole ratting thing, remember you have 60 meters of killer instinct upon exiting the control station too, so you can kind of use that to find people too. Last one is there's more, but to keep things concise, the 2-for-1 combo, as I like to call it, is that you technically don't lose your hitboxes on Xenomorph unless you hit the environment or you hit the survivor, meaning that breaking a turret does not count as a hit, meaning you continue to have hitboxes until the animation is over. So if a survivor is either setting up a turret or right next to it, like running by a turret, you can actually strafe starting on the turret side and land on the survivor and just hit both at the same time, because technically hitting the turret doesn't count as a hit. So the hitboxes don't deactivate and you just swipe across both and just hit both. It's very cool.
Just a lot of stuff you can do then, yeah.
Nope.
Nothing quite as intensive as like a hug tech, but
It's mostly like knowledge to execute things. Like hitting the 2-for-1 combo isn't like mechanically demanding, but like you have to kind of like realize that you can do it just based on the way the power works.
yeah, exactly. Because it's not like one attack, it's like several in a row that can hit other things, but only if they're turret.
Turrets count as misses technically.
Yeah. So with knowing all these techniques and things, I do want to ask, how do you feel about win streaks on the Xenomorph? Do you feel like comparatively with everyone else, it's easy to win streak on them? And just like, do you personally enjoy it? Why? And just tell me about your experiences if you have such experiences.
It's like funny that you asked this because I actually just took all categories in the win streak Discord for Xeno. Like I just got the perkless win streak one. So wahoo. So it's like hot and cold. You have a certain level of surprise in the survivors because it's a low pick rate character. So a lot of people don't know the counterplays. So to a certain extent, it's easy. But on the flip side, when you run into somebody who does know, you're going to have one of the hardest games of your life. The 134 win streak that I lost was because I got sent to one of the maps that's actually played in comp against Xenomorph against 3 comp players and then a random. And they just knew what to do against my character. There's double turrets everywhere. I went far too easy initially. And because, you know, it is the proper format for facing the Xeno in a pub match for comp, they, you know, had played this before, so they knew what to do. And in those scenarios, like you feel like a C tier killer. You feel awful. So it's very inconsistent, I think would be like the summary word I could use, is you'll have like 20-30 games where you feel like you're just like taking candy from a baby, and then you'll face a group that actually knows and you will never have a harder game of DBD.
Yeah, I feel that, believe me.
Yeah.
It's like when I get community members in my game that actually know how to strafe out away from my tentacle when I go to drag it. It's like, oh my god, please.
I'm always so proud of people when they do that, but it's also frustrating.
No, I agree. I'm like, that was a good dodge. Like, fuck you, you know?
Yeah. I do see that like Xenomorph win streaks are very hard to upkeep for that reason. Like I thought I did really well with 134, but if I look at other like people doing win streaks, their characters are far more consistent, even that are lower tier than my character. So you really have to be like on your game because there's just a lack of consistency in your ability to perform well just based on their knowledge of turret placement.
Yeah, it's just tough sometimes. It's tough. So obviously streaks are going to be different in strength and length and etc. based on what patch is happening, what's going on. But how has the meta of the game shifting affected the Xenomorph? I don't mean specifically changes to the Xenomorph, but changes to perks, maps, you know, just everything around the killer. How has Xenomorph kind of kept up with the modern day of Dead by Daylight?
They kind of haven't, which is something we're kind of alluding to before. Is pre-running is something that's very, very difficult for Xenomorph to deal with, especially since the turrets give you a very loud and early warning that you should pre-run. So obviously the Vigil meta is brutal, very, very brutal, because they can do this all the time, nonstop. So that's been really, really rough to deal with. We were talking about add-ons earlier. One of the good add-ons Xenomorph used to have was Kane's Helmet, which was their mingled add-on. Obviously now with like Desperate, Botany, and medkits in general, healing is so good that like running that is not that impressive anymore, especially since now it's timed when it used to not be. That definitely puts a detriment on things. So that used to be like a very, very good add-on for them where you could just slap that on and get free slowdown. I still do it for my perkless win streak. It's like, it's still nice to have free slowdown, but even then it's like they have Botany and they just shred through that so quickly that I might as well not even have the add-on. So once again, these aren't issues particularly that affect only the Xenomorph, but I think as a character that specifically suffers from pre-running, having Vigil make it to where pre-running is just constantly available to you with your exhaustion perk has been kind of difficult.
Yeah, Vigil's something, let me tell you.
Exhaustion perks were already like arguably like pushing it in terms of like how good they were. So to just have them off cooldown like twice as much is like, oh man.
Oh man.
Again, I guess that's what separates like a B tier killer from like the top 10, right? That's one of these things affects Ghoul not at all. And there's like John Xenomorph who gets a 41 meter warning to sprint burst Vigil their way out. So it's like, I don't know. That's just kind of the state of the game, I guess.
But speaking of John Xenomorph and the other top 10 killers, do you think that maining your killer has specifically given you transferable gameplay skills to any other killers?
Yes, actually. I mean, obviously I can play to a certain extent fairly all right, not just from watching you, but because, you know, strafe qualities, hitting over objects, a lot of range killers in general kind of play in a way like that, like Deathslinger, shooting in and around collision is something they do, but they do it far better because their collision box is 2 centimeters. Singularity is a weird one I didn't expect to have carryover with, but once you've gooped somebody with the biopod, you do have to weave in and around the environment to get the teleport onto them, the lock on. So that was a weird one I didn't expect to have a lot of carryover. Weird one also is, to some extent, Chucky makes a tiny bit of sense because in crawler mode, you're kind of hunched down. So your mind games could be a little bit stealthy based on the fact that you're just small, or at least hunched down. And Chucky can also just kind of like do weird mind games because he is short. He is Victor sized. So
I think Victor might even be taller.
Isn't Victor like in the game inside of Chucky's model? Or is that a misnomer?
I have no idea.
I would have to check that, but I think I've heard that, which would be really funny. But yeah, there's a lot of weird things that crossover from Xeno into other characters that you really wouldn't expect like that. Springtrap's one. Springtrap's a huge one. I almost didn't even mention Springtrap because Springtrap's essentially like his axe is like a long range tail attack, because with the tail attack a lot of the time you're shooting up and over like loops and tiles to hit people, but obviously Springtraps can go way farther, so it's kind of almost like a long range tail attack.
Whoa, a longer tail. So they're buffing the Xenomorph tail to 16 meters to be in line with everything else, obviously.
And you could look straight up and send it over the side of loops.
Yeah, of course. I think the Xenomorph getting a 16-meter tail might start to spell the end of things, and having fully lost the plot, I'm going to be honest with you. But speaking of losing the plot, how long do you think Dead by Daylight is going to last as a game?
I think it's kind of scary because with the game almost being 10 years old, I think that that's usually a good time for a game to slowly start gearing down. So I think that we're in kind of like the twilight years of the game. I think it's pretty clear that we're seeing that like the bugs and the clunk are finally breaking down. It feels like that, like your first car. That's usually like, cheaper. It's a little clunky, but you drive it to get to work and stuff. And over time, the issues start, the engine light comes on, but I drive anyway. But now it's getting to the point where we can't ignore the issues and they're piling up. And it seems like, I don't mean this in a negative way, it seems like behavior's also kind of losing the plot with like what they want out of the game, because it seems like the last couple of years we're like, okay, we want to balance the game so it'll be fair for both sides and it's fun that way. And now they're like, hey, let's just blow up the game the other way and make it a party game again. It seems like they don't know what they want out of it either. So that in tandem with the bugs getting to a point of like critical mass, I've seen a lot of people refer it to, I think that we're in our twilight years of the game and we should just, enjoy it, enjoy the ride until the ship goes down. This ship ain't going down without me. I'll keep on paddling. We're also at the point where most big licenses are already in the game, so there's only so many more like, hey, look, Springtrap before, They're going to do some ass pulls. They're going to do some really big ass pulls. I don't know what. Hey, look, it's The Phantom. Like, nobody knows that movie. Hey, look, it's Pumpkinhead. Oh, okay. Like, there's going to be a point where we're just not as excited for the big IP pulls. The Thing! Woo! Give it up for The Thing! I would fuck with The Thing. I would fuck with The Thing heavy. I better get the map, but that's all I'm saying. We already have it. It's Urban Link Mine. Smile. Ah! Okay, so very last question. Obviously, we all see it coming. We all know it's happening. What would be the final breaking point for you? What would make you quit the Xenomorph completely and never pick them up, never play them again? Completely stop playing Dead by Daylight as hit killer the Xenomorph. The game dying. Okay, that's it. That's that's the whole answer. I think that if like Predator came to the game, I would do like, depending on how fun the killer is, I could end up like 50-50. But this is my dream chapter. This is what I've always waited for. Like ever since I started playing DBD, I'm like, okay, Myers is cool, but what if we had the Xenomorph? And I grew up on the Xenomorph, so like, I don't know. That's my boy. I don't want to go anywhere else. There's so many times where the game's in like a very, very awful spot, and I just hop on Xenomorph and I just keep playing Xenomorph. And that kind of like shields me in a way from all the bad stuff happening in the game itself, because at least I'm still playing Alien, You would still be the alien, but there wouldn't be like a, like even that proposed change in March wouldn't have been like a, okay, I'm done with the Xenomorph type of change. I would adjust and feel more motivated to help people through it and like do the best they can as a result. I think if we're being like a little bit existential, I think the thing that would make me stop would have to be something outside where like, DBD is now supporting NFTs, or DBD is now using generative AI, like things that I like morally would be like, I don't want to support the game anymore. But it would be like Xenomorph-specific. That would be like life-specific, right? Yeah. Well, that's all I got, actually. This has felt a lot shorter than it was, and I just wanted to say, thanks for coming on, talking about the alien, the Xenomorph.
And now this end segment is just the part where I say like, hey, go check out the Mr. Headache on these things. So if you just want to give me all your links that you want people to check out, all your content that you're working on, anything you're excited about, go stream Alien Earth. Here you go. Time is yours.
Yeah, you can find me as The Mr. Headache on everything. Sometimes I'm The Mr. Headache Q1 because The Mr. Headache is apparently a common name. I don't know how that happens, but you can find me on YouTube, Twitch. That's where you'll most find me. That's where I work the hardest. You'll find my shorts content on TikTok as well under the same name. And if you want to hear me rant about things that don't matter, that's what Twitter's for. And that's also The Mr. Headache. So in terms of big stuff, like big things I'm looking forward to, Alien Earth, I'm also reviewing on the channel as well. So if you just are an Alien fan in general, I am doing spoiler and spoiler-free reviews for that as that comes out. Yeah, I guess that's just it. I mean, I want to help educate and help people learn the game, not only just for Xenomorph, but in general. So if you have need any help, I do match reviews to help people improve at the game as well. So if you have a match that's particularly rough, I can look at that for you. And that's in the description of every video. Also, check out the guide if you want more Xenomorph stuff. That's also in the description of every video, and also an S.T.A.R.S guide list. And also, I bet you're watching this video and you're not liking or subscribing to the horceror. You definitely should, because they work really hard on this stuff and they deserve it.
Yes. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
That's how creators know that they're doing a good job on the back end. So make sure you do it.
Yes, of course, yes. But now I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been here this whole time. Go check out the Mr. Headache on all these links on your screen. They will be in the description below as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, morning, noon, evening, night, whatever it might be, wherever you might be. And I hope to catch you in the next one. So thank you for being here, and bye-bye.
Goodbye.